Robert E. Lee, the commander of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, by Ella Carlton. His early life. Robert was born on January 19, 1807, in Stratford, Virginia. He was the son of Colonel Henry Lee and Anne Hill Carter Lee. At 18 years old, Robert enrolled at West Point Military Academy. He was one of very few that graduated from his class that finished without one single demerit on his record. He studied and received perfect scores. Shortly after graduating, he married Mary Custis Lee. Mary Custis was the granddaughter of George Washington. Robert E. Lee and Mary had several children. Mary and the children lived on Mary's father's plantation while Robert was away during his military duties. During the war against Mexico, Lee served under General Winfield Scott. After the war, Lee was hailed as a hero. Scott even suggested to the government to consider taking out a life insurance policy on the commander. In 1859, Lee returned to the army at a cavalry outpost in Texas, then was told to go put an end to a slave insurrection led by John Brown. Lee's commitment to Virginia greatly overranked that of his to the military. He even turned down President Lincoln's offer to command the Union forces. When Virginia voted to secede from the nation on April 18th, Lee agreed to lead the Confederate forces. Lee's significance to the Civil War. In 1862, Lee took control of the Army of Northern Virginia and drove back Union forces in a 7-day battle. Lee tried to cross the Potomac, just barely escaping one of the bloodiest battles in history, named Antietam. 14,000 of his men were wounded or killed. Lee's forces suffered a great loss in Gettysburg. It almost destroyed his entire army. Ulysses S. Grant caused Lee and his Confederate forces to abandon the Confederate capital at Richmond. After that, it was very clear the fate of the war. A week after Gettysburg, Lee surrendered to Grant at a personal home in Appomattox, Virginia. Lee's life after the Civil War. Lee was spared from being hanged as a traitor against the nation by President Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant. He returned to his family in April 1865. Later, he accepted a job as president of a small college in Western Virginia. In October 1870, Lee suffered from a major stroke and died on October 12th. Robert E. Lee was a very hard-working person even from a very young age, who strove only to be the best. He found where he was loyal to and fought for that cause until the very end. Robert E. Lee was brilliant strategically in battle. However, in the long run, he made a few crucial errors that lost him the war. Here are my citations. The end.